2018 was one hell of a year for me. It sparked a blazing fire of destruction that burned through all of my goals, dreams, and aspirations that I had up until that point in my life. Everything I worked for up until that point trickled out of my life just like sand in a baby's hand on a windy day at a beach. And I learned that out of the ashes of destruction rises the phoenix, a transformed and energized new version of myself. And this was made possible because I understood and then I applied the law of rhythm. Now, the law of rhythm is something that every successful person, whether they're consciously aware of it or not, has applied to their life in order to achieve their status and their success. And by the end of this video, I know for a fact that you'll have a thorough understanding of how to attract and balance yourself so that you'll be able to bring more happiness, health, and wealth into your life. So in this video, we're going to talk about how this law transformed my life, why this law is so important for you to understand, and the 3 ways we can implement it right now for success. The beginning of 2018 started off pretty hopeful. I just transferred colleges to finally be able to play in a more competitive league closer to home, and the new coach and my teammates seemed to really like me. And to add to that, I was also single, so now I could maximize all my time into the best results for my studies and my athletic career. Finally giving myself the chance to prove to myself that I could actually be something. So here's where things got turned around pretty quickly. So colleges require athletes to take 1 year off when they transfer schools. This basically prevents athletes from school hopping from one season to the next when they transfer schools if they're unhappy with their current school situation. That way it doesn't create like a super team full of super athletes in one season. So because of this, I had a year off to really hone in on my skills. I practiced about 12 hours a day from weightlifting, HIIT workouts, or high intensity cardio training and aerobic pool exercises. And by the time summer league started, I was in the best shape of my life. I added about 15 pounds of muscle, and because of this consistent training, I was one of the 5 starters. And if you don't know what that is, you're not a basketball fan, it's basically one of the 5 players that gets to start the game on the hardwood floor, not on the bench. It means you're one of the best players. So I was feeling pretty good about myself. But here's the thing, although I was feeling pretty good about my improved athletic status, being fully invested in outward self-improvement, I neglected improving my inner self. So to make a long story short, things went from amazing and hopeful to terrible and depressing real quick. Because although I was feeling great and I was at the top of my athletic game and my outward appearance, I decided to start dating again because I was feeling an emptiness inside, hoping that someone else could come in and fill that hole in my heart from my childhood. And because I wasn't sure of who I was or what I stood for, I allowed her to pull me into a lifestyle of partying, drinking, smoking, and other self-destructive habits. And I justified it to myself because I was thinking, well, this is just preseason. I've been working so hard that why not take a little bit of time off to kick back, relax, and if I want to drink on the weekend, if I want to smoke and I want to hang out late, why not? I've been working so hard. I'm good, I'm a starter, right? And it was at this moment that things began to spiral out of control. Because of these destructive habits, I compromised my higher self's evolution in order to please her. I was more afraid of losing her and not being cool than maintaining consistent effort in basketball and my studies. This eventually manifested as me getting pulled from the starting lineup and having my minutes on the court actually playing severely cut, which then furthermore spiraled me down this negative self-destructive habits rabbit hole, like drinking and smoking weed almost every weekend, numbing myself because I knew I was kidding myself. So fast forward a little bit and I caught my girlfriend cheating on me with one of my teammates. My playing time during the games has been reduced significantly. I switched my major to undecided and I was about to get kicked out of my own house. And while all this was happening to me, I held this negativity and buried it deep down inside and repressed it. And you know what we talk about always on this channel, when you repress and you hold in those negative emotions, you become depressed. And I became severely depressed. I felt like I had no purpose, I felt like a failure, and most importantly, I truly felt like I let my mom down. And she had been sacrificing up until this point all of her weekends and her summers. She was a teacher and pouring into my basketball career that I had now flushed down the toilet in order to pursue a relationship and be a people pleaser essentially. My identity, which at the time was being a successful basketball player, was completely ripped out from me. I had to reconfigure my identity and figure out what I was here to do. And this is exactly where the law of rhythm comes into play. So after going through all the tests and all the negativity, I learned something about life and something about us as human beings. I learned that life gives us tests not to defeat us, but so that we can evolve and learn from them, so that we can become bigger and stronger and able to help others dealing with the same thing once we've conquered that demon. And we've all dealt with hard times at some point in our lives. Maybe some of you watching this right now are dealing with something difficult. If you are, just know that the law of rhythm is something once understood gives you the peace of mind to not give in to the hard times. In fact, I would have never even discovered the laws of the universe if I myself didn't go through a lot of depression and hard times growing up. Oftentimes, it's these difficult times that make us really invest into learning more about ourselves and what our purpose is. Whereas someone that hasn't gone through tough times isn't going to watch self-improvement content on YouTube, nor would they make self-development a major focus in their life. So everything happens for a reason. It's no coincidence that you're watching this video right now, and for some reason you decide to click on it and stay this far. Anyways, in 2019, after I hit rock bottom, I learned how to bounce back in a major way by using the law of rhythm. Instead of letting all the negativity overtake my life completely, I began investing all of my time into learning more about myself, God, and the purpose of life, which helped me drastically improve my finances, health, happiness, and life, and then take this knowledge and share it with others so they can improve their circumstances. Turning obstacles into opportunities has been something I've made a part of my life now, and I encourage you, if you're watching this, to start looking at life this way. When life throws you an obstacle, look at it as an opportunity. The law of rhythm states that everything in the universe has a rhythm or cycle to it. The flow of your breath in and out, the ebb and flow of the ocean tides. Economic markets rise and then they fall. The flow of the seasons, the cycle of life. The law of rhythm manifests everywhere, and everything moves or vibrates to a certain rhythm or pattern. It's part of the dance of life we're all taking part in as individuated units. There's always going to be ups and downs that happen in this life. As we've talked about in previous videos, for every action we send out, there's an equal and opposite reaction that we receive. But we also live in a universe of free will, so sometimes unexpected things will just pop up. But regardless of whatever comes our way, we have to be willing to flow with the tides of life. So here are 3 tips on learning how to flow with the law of rhythm. Number 1, observe your thoughts instead of reacting to them. Sometimes in life, it can feel like life is happening to us and there's nothing we can do about it. But something that will help you handle anything life throws at you is to realize that everything in life is happening for you. When we feel badly, it's essential we ask ourselves questions like, how am I feeling? And why do I feel this way? And what do I need to do right now to get back to a balanced state? When we observe our emotional swings instead of reacting to it, we can keep things in perspective and make a rational decision to change what's causing the negative swing. The next thing we should do is be unattached to outcomes. It's easy for us to become attached to what we think the outcome of a certain thing should be. We see quick and seemingly easy success on social media and movies and think that's how life is supposed to be. But then when we try something out with an attachment of how we think the outcome should be, that's when we can be swung back and forth emotionally. And if this happens long enough, we'll eventually give up on whatever it is we're working on. So we should try not to get too attached to the outcomes, but stay in a mental state of neutrality or indifference. That way, whether you have ups or downs, you stay consistent in chipping away at your goals. The third thing is to learn to love life's tides. Just like the ocean's tide goes out into the deep sea and then flows back to the sandy shore, our life has ups and downs constantly. If we're feeling like the tide isn't flowing in a positive direction in our lives right now, we have to realize that the tide will eventually turn. You don't see the ocean being like, nah, I'm gonna just keep the tide flowing out to the sea, forget the inflow back to the beach. That would be insane if that happened. In a negative way, the entire ecosystem of the ocean would be screwed up because we need both the inflow and the outflow. And the same is true with us. And when you control your emotions, you're not as affected by the ups and downs, especially when things aren't going your way or the way you'd like them to be. So here's what will really help you out. The next time you're dealing with a more challenging cycle in life, embrace it. Realize that after every rainy day, there's a rainbow in the sky. And after the darkest hour in the night comes the sun. Embrace the swings of life with calmness and patience. They're always going to be there because we live in a universe. Una meaning one, and verse coming from the Latin word versare meaning change. It means one change. And guess what? It might feel like you're alone, but you're not. We're all going through this together. So the next time you're face to face with one of life's tides, pause and think to yourself, what can I do? What's the first step I can do in order to tackle this challenge? You can just chip away at it little by little. It doesn't have to be all one at the same time, and just go for it. You want to take it nice and slowly and think about what's the first thing you can do. Sit, think about it. It'll come to you. And when it does, it's going to be a hunch. Slowly begin to implement it and act upon the hunch you're receiving. All the while, remain in a positive attitude and realize that while something might appear to be bad or negative in our lives, there's something good in everything. So you just gotta look for it and it'll show up. Counterbalancing our emotions will really help us during our self-improvement journey to remain focused on constantly growing. Just like a seagull sits on top of the waves in the ocean, we have the power to not allow life cycles to pull us in one direction or another. It's all a matter of perspective and trusting the process.